Look, Red, this just isn't gonna work out anymore. You're just too damn horny all the time and I can't take it anymore.
Well, who needs you anyway? Gosh dang women. Always wanting you to change what they fell in love with you for.
You and me, no matter how they toss the dice, it had to be. The only one for me is you, and you for me, so happy together.
Hey, what's up, Funkaholics? I finally got my set of Hellboy pops in, and overall I think the sculpts are pretty good, but of course they're not without their flaws, mostly having to do with the paint, which I'm about to show you in this video. But first, let's take a look at what the box art looks like. Got the Hellboy logo on top, some artwork from the comic on the side and the back, and there's 6 figures in this line. Well, 7 if you include the Hellboy chase. Nimue, the Queen of Blood, has one of the most amazing head sculpts I've seen in a long time. This 3-headed raven helmet looks amazing. And it's actually painted pretty well. I like that they picked this glossier black for the top, but it's not too glossy. And they picked this gray right here to kind of break it up. And then a more metal looking finish on the bottom part of the helmet. It does read like metal. It looks really nice. Where they dropped the ball on the paint a little bit though is these eyebrows look very fuzzy. They don't look like the typical Funko eyebrows. And in the glam, her eyes had a black outline around them and it looked so much better. And they also got some of the eyeshadow onto the actual eye part, which doesn't look that great. I mean, you have to really look to notice it, but once you see it, it is a little bit annoying. And I do wish that this nose guard would have came down past her nose, because the way they did it, like a little bit of her nose is peeking through, but it just kind of looks like they didn't paint the nose guard right because it's not super clean. Wish they would have just done that a little better. Either, I guess, have more of her nose showing or have that nose guard come down a little bit more. The body is pretty simple when it comes to the paint. It's just, you know, kind of molded in this color. And the skull is just white with black. That's done really well. I really like the detail of the skull. It looks nice. And her hair is just painted red with a little bit of a darker kind of airbrushing right here that they didn't have to do, but they did and it looks nice. But yeah, I think this pop would have looked so much better if they would have put the black outline around the eyes, made the eyebrows a little bit more solid. It would have looked just so much better. And honestly, this might have been one of the coolest pops of the year if the paint didn't seem so sloppy. Just like the Queen of Blood, Lobster Johnson, or just the Lobster, also has a really nice sculpt. Look at all these little details on the body. They're done really well and painted pretty good for the most part. There's a little bit of glue on mine, but I'm pretty sure that's not going to be on all of them. But you can see that his grenades are pretty clean. His belt buckle is as well, and all the little buttons. And so is his gun. It doesn't really, like, the paint doesn't bleed over onto the fingers, and the finger paint doesn't bleed over onto the gun. And the 2 little decals are clean, like his little thing he uses to burn his logo onto his victims. And I like that they use 2 different kinds of black to differentiate the different kinds of leather of his costume. It looks good. That collar looks good. The sculpt on the head is really nice. I like these little wrinkles they added on here. They didn't have to do that, but that totally makes it look like he's wearing a skin-tight leather cap or whatever you would call this. It looks pretty good, but look at the paint on this. Look how much of this gray paint goes onto the leather part of his headpiece there. And look how sloppy the yellow is. And actually on the glam, it made it look like these were going to be clear pieces and you were going to be able to see the Popeyes behind it. That would have looked amazing. I understand why they don't do it because I guess, you know, all those little things make these cost a lot more, and pops are kind of a cheap collectible. You know, they're only about $10, sometimes less. But that would have looked really amazing if these were actually transparent yellow pieces and you can see his eyes underneath. And another gripe I have about this one is that the face paint is really sloppy. It looks like this was actually molded in black and they painted over it with the flesh color, but it needed like another coat. There's just a lot of like the black peeking through. Just looks sloppy all around. And yeah, I just wish they would have either put another coat on here or maybe molded this in a lighter color so that the black didn't come through so much, and it's just pretty sloppy. But, you know, sitting on the shelf or inside of the box, you don't notice those flaws as much. It's nitpicking for the most part, but, you know, it's what I do. And I was able to get the chase version of Hellboy, and he looks pretty cool with these big old horns. What makes him different than the common is that the common has the horns shaved down, and the chase has them intact. And I want you to look at these tiny little details right here. Look how well they're all painted. And his right hand of doom has got this like brown wash over it to really make it look like stone. The lines, for the most part on the body, are pretty clean. The BPRD logo is pretty clean on there. I think that's a decal though. But, you know, this is what baffles me. Like, the body is done really well. But then, like, the head, on details you think would be a lot simpler than all of this, look how sloppy it is. Just look at how much black overlaps into the red here. It's sloppy to the point of it being just kind of noticeable right away. And if you look closely here, it's kind of hard to catch it on camera because my camera has a hard time with these really bright red colors. But there is like a brush stroke here that it looks like it was black and then they removed it with like some kind of paint remover, because you can really see like how much darker it gets, especially in person. It's very noticeable. I noticed it before I even took it out of the box. I mean, overall, this pop is still very eye-catching. It's awesome. It's just these little paint flaws that just make me scratch my head. You know, it seems like they send the bodies to a different factory than the heads, and then they just put them together somewhere else. I wish they would send the whole pop to the factory that knows how to really paint them really well. And it always seems to happen on some of these, I mean, I guess smaller lines, or smaller isn't the right word, but these lines that probably aren't going to sell as well as, say, like Star Wars or the new, you know, Marvel movie or whatever. Those always seem to have better paint details than these guys. But I guess they have to keep the prices low. These are, in the end, cheap collectibles. But yeah, it's just those little details that hold it back from greatness. Liz Sherman has one of the better paint jobs in the series. Like, her hairline is clean for the most part. And as you can see, her eyebrows are a lot sharper than the Queen of Bloods. More of a typical style that Funko does eyebrows in. And they did give her a little bit of rosy cheeks, which looks okay. I never think that Funko gets that exactly right. It always looks a little cheesy. But all the details on her body are done really nice. I like that they didn't shy away from giving her a cigarette. You know, with how PC the world is now, a lot of, you know, toy and collectible manufacturers kind of shy away from cigarettes and things like that. And of course, I really like the fire in her hand because she is a pyrokinetic. And I'm glad that they put that in there. It would have been a kind of a boring pop without that. But overall, she's done really nice. And for anybody that's a fan of the comic book, she's totally recognizable as Liz Sherman. Not bad overall. I really like this Grigory Rasputin pop. You know, that's one of the cool things about Hellboy is that they sometimes pick characters that were actual real historical characters, you know, and comic bookize them. But yeah, this Rasputin's pretty cool. I like the way they did the hand sculpt. They look really good. They look a little bit bigger than the typical Funko hands. And I'm really liking how they're open like this. I hate when they just clench the hands. Kind of a lazy way to sculpt it, I think. But these look amazing. And for the most part, his paint job is pretty good. Like, since his beard is kind of rough and not super groomed, like, it really hides the fact that the line isn't perfect on some of this, but it still looks very good. And it's got a little bit of sculpting here on, like, the mouth. So it kind of all fits together well. And I like those light blue eyes. I like the raccoon eyes and the bag under it. It looks really good. The eyebrows look good as well. The head is probably the best on this one when it comes to the paint. You know, it's a simpler sculpt, but it's painted well. And it has to be like, when the sculpts are simple, the paint is very important. And they even did a little bit metallic paint for these beads around his hands. You know, but they almost got it perfect, but it still got some weird splatter here because it looks like this was molded black, so they had to paint this like the paint color. And as you can see, probably needed another coat. At least it's on the back, so it's not a big deal at all. Like, if there's going to be paint flaws, I prefer it to be on the back. So overall, this guy did turn out nice. And finally, one of the most beloved characters in the Hellboy universe, Abe Sapien. And again, his sculpt is really cool looking, very accurate. But where it fails is the paint. Again, on the body, not too bad. A little rough right here. But when you're looking at it head on, you don't even notice that. You have to like turn it upside down to really notice that. So pretty decent on the body. But right on the face, like, they somehow got some of this light blue eye paint kind of like on the black, and you know, there's a smear on the actual face, which is pretty unfortunate because, like, look at it. Where does your eye go to? It goes directly to that paint flaw. And I know they're probably not all like that, but I did see quite a few of these Hellboy pops in store, and a lot of them had very rough paint. Like, you'd be hard pressed to find a perfect set of all 6 and have them all be flawless. And also I noticed that on pops that have paint like this on the head, it looks like they do them in 3 parts. And right here, you know, and you know, sometimes they don't line up. Like, if you look right here, you see that this didn't line up. This back part's a little bit too far to the right. But they fixed it on the front. Like, you can tell that it didn't line up at the front, but they put a few brush strokes in here. You can see the difference in like the glossiness, but you can hardly notice that. And that is a lot better than this on the front. I wish they would have continued that onto the back, but I guess to save, you know, time and money, they didn't. But at least they tried, you know, to find a way to fix that. So you don't really notice it on the front, which is, I guess, the most important thing. But I wish they would have continued that on the back. And just, like, have better quality control and not have such glaring mistakes like, you know, paint on the face like that. Like, go through and make it into boxes that are on shelves for people to buy. Because, yeah, like, those eyes are some of the sloppiest I've seen in a while. And just, you know, paint on the face is pretty inexcusable. You know, if I would have seen this guy in store, I would have waited for a better one. But I found a really good deal online to get them all plus the chase for less than, you know, what they would cost me just like in stores. And I get the chase. So of course I'm going to take that and take the gamble that my paint jobs aren't going to be well. But usually with Funko, if a paint job is bad on one of them, it's usually pretty bad on all of them. It just kind of depends, I guess, on the line and where they were manufactured, whether they're all going to have, like 90% are going to have bad paint jobs, you know, and you'll have to find, you know, the 1 in the dozen or the 1 in 10 that is okay. But yeah, overall, pretty happy with Abe Sapien and the rest of the line. Just wish they would have a little bit better quality control when it comes to the paint. Alright guys, as you can see, they all stand on their own. Even Liz Sherman, which is great because she didn't come with a stand. She's actually surprisingly sturdy, so there's no worries there. Altogether, this line looks great, and I believe they're coming out with a couple of exclusives. One of them is Hellboy with the Excalibur sword and missing an eye. I know I bitched a lot about the paint, but it's only because I believe these sculpts all turned out really well, and I just wish that the paint was on the same level as the sculpt. It's hard to pick a favorite, maybe the Queen of Blood, because of that awesome helmet, and I'm pretty excited about the new movie coming out with David Harbour as Hellboy and Mila Jovovich as the Queen of Blood. Really liking David Harbour recently, and Mila Jovovich is one of my favorite actresses of all time. Yeah, she makes a lot of bad movies, but I like her so much that I'll watch bad movies just because she's in it. And honestly, I think she's a good choice for someone like the Queen of Blood. She definitely has a type of face and body where she could play, a hot evil witch. And I heard that Mike Mignola didn't like the Guillermo del Toro versions of Hellboy, and that he's going to be a lot more involved this time around, so that's going to be interesting to see how this new Hellboy movie turns out. Alright guys, let me know in the comments below what you think about the Hellboy line, whether you got them, if yours have better paint jobs than mine, if you're excited about the new movie, or anything else you'd like to say. Thanks for watching and take it easy.